What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota, and welcome back to Cologne. Today, we're going to be looking at and reviewing Rabanne's Invictus Parfum. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so we are in full swing in winter. And I know typically when winter fragrances happen, when the winter time happens, everybody looks for deep, dark, rich fragrances and stuff like that. Well, somebody was talking to me the other day about if you wanted to have like a change of pace fragrance, something that is still going to be clean, lineny, soapy, maybe a little bit of fresh, maybe a little bit of citrusy, but can still hold the performance values that we all know and love from traditional winter fragrances. Well, one of the first ones that came to my mind was this one right here. And this was a 2024 release. This is Invictus Parfum. So not to be confused with the Invictus Victory line, because in my mind, those are two completely separate lines. A lot of the Victory lines to me are more warm, they're more sweet, maybe a little more gourmand even compared to how some of them go. The Invictus line has always been known for like a clean, bubblegummy, linen-y type of line. And so that's what this is, just turned up to a 10. That's kind of where today's video is going to be based off of, is going to be a rock solid fragrance that will be a heavy hitter that kind of breaks the norm of your traditional winter fragrance. All right, and I'm going to get us kicked off the same way I always like to get it kicked off, and that's going to be showing off the atomizer. And the atomizer on this one is just okay. I don't know if it was the bottle or what, but for some reason, this atomizer doesn't really feel like it wants to push down all the way. So the burst comes out really linear and it doesn't really have that big of a spread. So as far as atomizers go, this one is painfully average. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and put two there on the arm. And what you get when this gets in the air, what you get when this first gets on your skin is pretty much exactly what you would expect to be from an original Invictus. So you get a lot of clean, you get a lot of soapy, you get a lot of linen, you get a little bit of a floral backbone to it, or at least that's what my nose is able to pick up. Probably one of the biggest things that I can pick up is, to me, this has a big like shower gel kind of vibe. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the notes real quick. So the top notes on this are going to be marine notes, lavender, and pink pepper. And the pink pepper you don't really get much of. To me, this doesn't really have much of like a spicy. This doesn't really have like a soft spicy or anything like that. What I get the most of out of this is going to be like the marini, some sweet florals, and some soapiness. And speaking of the soapiness, that is going to tie us into our middle note. The middle notes on this is just going to be soap, like bar soap. It's going to be violet leaf, and I hope I'm saying this right. I believe it's pronounced myrtle. I could have completely butchered that. If I did, please someone let me know. And the base notes on this is going to be musk, cashmere, and sandalwood. So when you wrap all those notes in a fragrance, you get this. And pretty much the notes breakdown on that is very straightforward. And if you can pick them out, that's exactly what you smell. Like pretty much from the opening all the way to the dry down, this doesn't really have much of a change. And from the moment you spray it until you get into the deeper dry down, you do get exactly as you get some marineness, you get a little bit of a saltiness, you get a little bit of floral, you get a lot of that shower gel kind of smell. It's blended in a way that even though it is a parfum concentration, even though this was meant to be more of a summer fragrance, you can get away wearing it in the winter and it's not going to smell very synthetic. But we're going to touch more on that here in a minute. So what we're going to get into now is going to be the price, performance, and the availability. So availability wise, this was a 2024 release, as I said. Every store is going to have this. Every discounter is going to have this. Rabanne is one of those fragrances that usually tends to hit discounters very quickly, especially the Invictus lines. From retail, you can pick this up for about $120 to $140, depending on what size you get. I recommend the discounter route because discounter routes, this is already around that $80 range, 400 mil. That's what this is, 100 mil. About that $80 range can already get you there for an $80 fragrance. I feel like this would be a quality buy. Now, as far as performance goes, that's where it gets a little bit ticky-tack. So I actually wore this the other day when it was really, really cold. And much to my surprise, it did phenomenally well. I got about 7-8 hours longevity out of this, and the sillage on this was very good. I got several foot sillage. Here's the weird part. For this being such a fresh, clean, linen-y, and I understand it is a parfum concentration, but typically whenever you have the note breakdowns or you have the backbones of a fragrance like this, it moves around very well. It wants to project very well. This one does set extremely close to the skin. It almost makes like a wall because 1 or 2 foot out, you won't be able to smell it, but as soon as you come inside that, you just hit with it. And luckily for me, this fragrance is a very light hitting fragrance. There's not a whole lot of harsh properties to this. Like I said, with this being such a clean, shower jelly, florally kind of vibe to it, it does hit the senses very softly. So this is one that you don't really have to worry about overspray. This is one that is going to be incredibly mass appealing. Pretty much everyone is going to be able to make this an easy reach. And given the performance of this, given the properties of this, this would be a really easy fragrance to say that it would be an all year fragrance. I don't really see any time of the year not being a good time to wear this, just because anytime you have a fresh, clean fragrance that tends to do well in winter, it's going to be a banger. It's going to be one of those that should be an easy reach for anyone, because typically your fresh, your summer, your linen fragrances, a lot of citrus fragrances, stuff like that, when it gets really cold outside, some of the issues with those fragrances always end up coming back to performance based. My favorite summer fragrance, arguably one of my favorite summer fragrances, is Dior Homme Cologne. That fragrance is terrible in the winter. It gets really synthetic-y and it lasts maybe an hour, maybe two. So typically something like that is what you're left with when you get into a fragrance like that. Now, this one being a Parfum concentration, I was pleasantly surprised to see that a lot of the performance held on very well all the way into the deeper parts of the Drydown to get 6, 7, 8 hours out of this. And as I said earlier in the video, if you're someone who doesn't really like tobacco-y, sweet, rummy, praline-y, a lot of those kind of fragrances tends to be the properties of heavy-hitting winter fragrances. If you're someone who just likes the clean, simple linen, this is going to work for you all day and all night. All right, so now what we're going to touch on is the deepest parts of the dry down on this. This fragrance does dry down relatively quickly, and it does dry down fairly linear. So really the only major change you're going to get from the opening all the way until the deepest parts of the dry down is the sandalwood. To me anyway, the sandalwood gets just a little bit louder. The cashmere just gets a little bit deeper, because for the most part on my skin, everything I'm able to pick up still stays in that clean soap kind of wheelhouse. The only real difference, like I said, is that sandalwood. Now the sandalwood blend on this is very, very soft. This isn't going to be an overwhelmingly woody fragrance. It's very much going to be in the background of it. The cashmere is also the same. It's going to be background. The main thing you're going to get from this on the deepest dry down is you're going to get a lightness. You're going to get some of that muskiness. You're going to hold on to a lot of that floral. And then in the deeper parts of the dry down, it is develop a little bit of a powderiness. So for the most part, everything that you're going to get out of this fragrance is just going to be a summertime feeling fragrance, but one that has enough backbone, that one that has the staying power to wear all through the winter. So if I had to give this fragrance a rating right now, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. And some of my fragrance bias is going to be coming out on this just a little bit. The only real reason I'm going to score it just a little bit low is this fragrance just isn't really my blend of fragrance. As everybody knows, if you watch the channel long enough, I like the deeper, the richer, the tobaccos, stuff like that. This, for what they were going for, I can completely respect what they did, because they were able to make a hard-hitting, fresh, soapy fragrance that could be worn all day, all year, any given situation. But if you wanted to wear this to a date, it could work. If you just wanted to wear it around the house, it could work. If you wanted to make it like a lazy reach, pretty much this is going to fit almost any situation that you could find yourself in. So as far as like how natural it smells, as far as everything you get out of this fragrance wrapped up in an $80 package, that's going to be rock solid. But as far as like a soapy, clean style of fragrance, this one does exceptionally well though. I will give credit where credit is due. The blend on this, the way it was done, the properties that this thing possesses, everything about it does scream very good. And the best part about it, like I said, for about that $80 price range, you really can't go wrong with this one. But I do think that's going to get us wrapped up. I'm going to go ahead and get it on this bottle one more time. As always, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing, for sticking around, staying tuned, watching the videos, the feedback from the channel, the support channel. I genuinely appreciate it, so thank you. And we just had a 600 subscriber giveaway. At 700, we're going to be doing another one. So if you didn't get on the 600, be sure to subscribe, stick around for the videos. We'll be doing another one at 700 and pretty much every 100 on from there. So yeah, as always, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.